Want to win a new Chevy, Nissan, Toyota, or Hyundai? Come to any McCarthy Auto Group location and register for a chance to shoot your way into a brand new vehicle during the Big 12 tournament. See McCarthy Auto Group for details.
Terry Wantland is one of the 8 inductees into the 2013 edition of the Carb Hall of Fame. Will be going in tonight, and Terry is joining us right now. Terry, congratulations. First of all, what does it mean for you to be inducted into the Carb Hall of Fame? Your thoughts?
Well, it's unbelievable. It's very much so an honor, and I really, really appreciate it.
And is it surprising to you that you would be a Hall of Famer? Because, I mean, a lot of people don't know you were a pretty good racer before you became flagman. Most people know you as the flagman. But you raced at one time, and you won races during a period of time. But are you still surprised that you would be considered a Hall of Famer here in Kansas City?
Really and true, like I said, it's very much so an honor to be inducted in, especially with some of the great people I've inducted in with. Some of these people I flagged with, some of these people I worked with. It's just unbelievable. And yes, it is unbelievable that I'm being inducted into this.
Now,
because there's a lot of great people out there. I'm not the only one.
What got you interested in racing to begin with, way back when? Was it family, or was it just kind of tell us your influences and how you got involved?
It was my family that got me involved in it. My dad raced back in the 50s, and so it was my family that got me all involved in it, and friends. And
I'll talk about your dad a little bit. What did he do as far as racing to get you interested in it?
Well, he took me to all the races after he finally quit racing, but he did race in the late 50s. He raced when Jerry Weldon started racing. He was racing. So it was just a family deal. We went to the races.
And was this something you had always wanted to do, or was there a period of time where just the light clicked on, hey, this is what I want to do?
No, it was something that I always wanted to do. It was something that I always wanted to do. I had an opportunity early in my racing deal to meet John Luderin, which John Luderin was who ran Riverside and ran Olympic Stadium. And they became family friends of the family. So we were locked in every week at Olympic and Riverside.
Tell us about the differences between those two racetracks, Riverside Stadium and Olympic Stadium. Just your thoughts about each one of those racetracks and the big differences between the two.
Well, there wasn't no way out of Olympic. It had a wall all the way around it, and it was a little bit shorter than Riverside. So once you got there was no mistakes to be made because you didn't have anywhere to go. Riverside was a little more forgiving. But they raced the same cars in that time frame. They raced the same cars at both tracks. And even Wednesday nights, they would race at Riverside. They went through a period where they raced on Wednesday nights there.
Now, they raced on different nights. What was the differences in, say, the culture of the fan base and so forth between those two racetracks, even though they were both located just miles from each other and raced on different nights? Just kind of talk about the differences as far as the atmosphere between those two places.
Well, more or less the same people raced at both tracks. They took the carburetors off and put fuel injection on. That was the difference in the two tracks. So it was mainly the same people that raced at both tracks. Ray Lee Goodwin and the Weld, Greg and Kenny and Jerry and all of them. It didn't make no difference. They was both racing at both tracks.
What do you miss about Olympic Stadium? We'll talk about that one first.
Hey, you know what? Just being around all the people in that time frame that raced.
Is that a big part of why this became a big open-wheel town? Because Olympic Stadium was not only known here in Kansas City, it was known around the country. A.J. Foyt, among others, raced there. How do you credit that for helping Kansas City become a big open-wheel sprint car town?
You know, I really don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, that's something that you all just kind of wonder. You're around during those days. You've seen racing change a lot over the last 40 years that you've been around the sport. You've watched it from the flag stand. What are your thoughts about where we've transitioned to now? Here it is, 2013, where we've come from and where we are today and where we might be going. There's no better person to try to see that and look at what's happened as yourself that's been around racing a long time. Where do you see racing today and where it might be headed?
Well, eventually, the kids are going to have to get back into it, which we can't hardly get them involved in it because of all the electronics and stuff that's out there. The whole deal is money. It's going to cost money to do this, and people don't want to spend their money in that direction.
And, we've talked about this ad nauseum on this program about, kids. I mean, there are a lot of schools don't even have auto mechanic classes anymore. Where are we going to find kids that not only are going to be able to race, but also work on these race cars? There's a lot of different interests that kids have today. Do you have any ideas on what might be done in order to get kids back involved in racing, where we can keep this thing going?
To me, it's family and exposure. If they're exposed to it and their families are exposed to it, I think that's how it's going to happen. There's so many people that have quit going to races, and they finally went through their mainstream. They're wore out. There's a lot of people don't just keep going every week like we do.
How did you get started flagging, Terry, becoming an official?
Well, at the very beginning, down at Riverside, they flagged from the ground down there, and they didn't have radios. And they would look up in the tower and look and see when the white flag lap was supposed to be. Virginia Nelson would wave her hand and go, next lap, white flag. So I started hanging out down by the flagman. And I could hand him a flag when he needed one. And I watched up there for her to wave her arm. That's how I kind of got locked into that and talking with them every week from the infield. So that's how I finally got started doing that. Then Larry Castor opened up Riverside after it had been closed down for approximately a year. And I got involved through Larry. Larry finally hired me as a flagman. He had a guy that was working there as a flagman, but his job interfered with being able to be there all the time. John Cassidy was his name. His brother, Chuck, helped him. That's back when we had assistant flagman. So then when he was gone, I'd help his brother Chuck, and then finally his brother Chuck couldn't come, then Larry ended up hiring me.
There's not many people that know the feeling of standing up top of that flag stand. You really got a lot of people think you got the best seat in the house to watch races. What is it that attracts you to wave those flags every Friday night out at Lakeside Speedway?
Well, it's a completely different world, I guarantee you. Like you said, everybody thinks it's the best seat in the house, but it's a completely different world. It takes a lot of concentration. And you're there for the safety of the drivers and to put on a good show for the fans. So there's a lot of judgment calls. A lot of people don't care for some of them, but a lot of people do. It's almost a thankless job.
Is the mechanics different now as far as the way you do your job on top of that flag stand different now than it was, say, 25, 30 years ago? You've been doing this thing a long time. Are the cars and how fast they go around the racetrack changed the way you flag?
Not really. Not really. You just get up to speed on it. It's a shock when it first happens, but then after it happens and you get used to that speed, it's a whole different deal.
And here, more recently, you've been competition director at Heartland Park, Topeka, where you're up in the tower. How different is that for you in that role where you're not flagging, that's where you used to be on top of the flag stand.
That's a whole different ball game. They're two different positions at a racetrack, and like I said, it's a whole different ball game.
What is the biggest memory you have driving a race car back in the early days? And you won some races back then. You got a story to tell that might be humorous that we haven't heard, that coming from your days of driving a race car?
Well, that driving the race car I learned a whole lot. You hear so many stories. Every driver's got an opinion or what happened on the racetrack, and you're trying to make the call. Well, they don't always tell the truth, or they don't give you the whole story. It's one or the other. But once I started driving a race car, I found out real quick that they know exactly what's going on. They know exactly where they belong. There's not a problem. It's just that they didn't like the call they got.
Is having had that experience behind the wheel of a race car, how has that helped you become better in making calls, having the understanding of what it's like to be behind the wheel of a race car?
Oh, it's unbelievable. It improved me. It improved me at least 50%. At least 50%. It was unbelievable after doing that. After driving the car, being put in positions, you knew exactly where you belonged at, why the call was made, what you did to the other. There's two people that knows what happens in them accidents, and that's the two people in each car. And you can talk to them, and neither one of them got the same story, but they both know exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's very difficult from the stands. A lot of people have their opinions on, well, this person took that guy out. It was plain to see. But how do you really read the mind of a race car driver? And when you got to make a call when somebody gets spun out or somebody gets turned around, having driven a race car, it's not always that simple, is it?
No, it's not.
Your wife Vicki has been a big part of your career out there, and she's right there with you at the races every week, isn't she? Talk about
yes,
how she's
sure
been an influence.
And so is my son also. My son used to score at the old Lakeside, which was back in the 80s.
Right.
So, yeah, my whole family's been involved with me in this whole situation. And they're still involved in one way or another.
How gratifying is that that they have also had interest in racing, and because racing is a family sport, is it not?
Absolutely. And now my grandkids are involved in it, so it's just a super deal.
We'll talk about the grandkids. What are they doing now? Are they racing?
Oh, no, they're not racing, but there's nothing that goes on in racing that they don't know about.
Yeah.
They follow it.
Are you wanting to continue to flag for as long as you can? Do you have any thoughts of hanging it up? You've been doing it a long time.
Well, as long as they'll have me. I enjoy doing it, and I think that I'm good for the sport, and I want to help the sport.
New ownership out at Lakeside Speedway. We have Mike Johnson and Don Mars taking over ownership of that racetrack. Your thoughts about the future of Lakeside Speedway and how things are going to transpire as we kick off the new season here in a few weeks under new ownership?
Well, I think Don and Mark are both going to make some improvements to the track. They're going to make some improvements to the racing community. I think it's going to be a good deal. I think it's going to be a very good deal. I'm not saying that everybody may have a bump in the road, because that happens to everybody. I think they're going to be. I think it's for the betterment of racing.
You going to continue to be involved at Heartland Park Topeka in 2013?
Yes, sir, I am.
So it's business as usual for Terry Wantland. You're in the Hall of Fame, but certainly you're not ready to retire. That's for sure. As you keep things going strong tonight, Terry, we appreciate you joining us here this morning, and look forward to seeing you out at the Hall of Fame Awards Banquet tonight. And again, congratulations for becoming one of the new inductees into the Carb Hall of Fame. Well deserved.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your call.